The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher.
This morning, a grieving family is still in shock after their loved one was shot and killed near the Target at the Park at Riverwalk Shopping Center last week. And the person who pulled the trigger is still on the run. 17's Christian Galeno sat down with the family as they look for justice and answers.
A whole community gathering to pay respects to a family who carries an enormous amount of pain.
I knew he had an impact on people, but to actually see how many people he impacted, it's really touching.
Last Wednesday, the parking lot of the Stockdale Highway Target was chaotic, taped up, and near the site where Alcala lost his life, his family gathered, eager for answers.
Family was out there for 5 hours.
Mary Mendoza, Alcala's mother-in-law, speaks for her daughter, Valerie, who is too distraught to talk.
Praying and hoping that we weren't going to get the news that I already felt in my heart.
Mendoza says Alcala and Valerie had just celebrated 19 years of marriage the day before his death.
It devastates me. Well, I'm sure any mother, they don't want to see their children hurting.
Mendoza says Alcala was charging his electric vehicle the night he was shot. The family had a planned trip to Arroyo Grande where his son Max was to play for Centennial High School. That trip would never happen.
His wallet was still with him. His phone was still with him. I don't think it was a random act. I really believe it was someone wanted to do this to him.
An investigation still underway. Bakersfield police still very tight-lipped on a suspect or a motive.
He leaves behind a big hole, and we're going to have to fill that, each and every one of us.
I'm just going to pass through the message that my daughter's sitting on right now. She just wants to know who and why, because there's no understanding right now of why.
For 17 News, I'm Christian Galeno.
Meantime, a GoFundMe page has been set up for the Alcala family. You can find it on our website, kget.com.
17 Court Watch this morning. A woman charged with killing a local woman in a hit-and-run crash is due back in court today. Stephanie Henninger admitted to driving a car that started a chain reaction crash back on July 22nd of 2020, killing 65-year-old Deborah Ann Geneau. Geneau was killed in that crash on Stockdale Highway, launching a month-long investigation leading to Henninger's arrest. Court documents say Bakersfield police officer Chad Ott noticed a small white decal on a picture of the suspect's windshield. He learned the decals were standard on all cars sold from CarMax. Then he matched the location of a cell phone with the path the suspect's car traveled and learned the subscriber for the phone was Henninger. Ott then combed through CarMax records to confirm the suspect vehicle belonged to Henninger. Geneau's daughter, Dawn, and Dawn's husband, Joe, have since founded a nonprofit called Helping Hit-and-Run Tragedies. Their mission is to help victims and their families and provide resources to law enforcement.
5:05 now, and a shocking discovery made at a local high school yesterday as sheriff's officials say a student brought a gun and a jar of marijuana to school. Here's a look at what sheriff's deputies found. KCSO says staff at Independence High School in Wasco seized the illegally manufactured 9mm gun along with everything that you see right here. The teen was arrested on several possession charges. KCSO says this is an isolated incident and there is no ongoing threat. Meantime, a student at Arvin High School was also arrested yesterday for allegedly bringing a handgun to school. The district says the weapon was found during a routine investigation, but Kern High School District Police determined there's no sign the student intended to use that weapon at school. In an unrelated incident, Arvin High was locked down after a possible threat was made yesterday afternoon. The lockdown was lifted about 30 minutes later. The district says extra officers will be on campus today just as a precaution.
Well, do you have lunch plans later on today? You are invited to support a local charity, eat some good food, and donate blood all at the same time. Jersey Mike's Subs on Coffee Road is teaming up with the David Marcus Thumbs Up charity and Houchin Blood Bank for a fundraiser and blood drive tomorrow in memory of David Marcus. Marcus was a fixture in our community, affectionately known as Mr. Bakersfield, spreading positivity and light wherever he went. Houchin will have its mobile blood bank at Jersey Marks today from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Jersey Mike's will donate 20% of its sales to the David Marcus Thumbs Up charity, which awards scholarships to local high school seniors.
5:07 now, and there is concern this morning about how to fund public safety and law enforcement services in our area. While the county's budget looks healthy today, the future's outlook is grim. This morning, county supervisors will receive the budget for the upcoming year. County officials say the $3.6 billion budget is healthy and will stabilize the sheriff's office, address homelessness, and keep libraries open to pre-pandemic levels. The increase in revenue is thanks to an increase in demand for oil and gas, coupled with state and federal assistance following the pandemic. And while it seems encouraging, officials say this budget is not sustainable because of the future of the oil and gas industry. Tonight on 17 News at 5, I'll tell you what's in this budget, plus explain the concerns from our county's top leaders. We are back now with the latest on the fentanyl crisis, and Kern County continues to suffer the consequences of fentanyl, the synthetic opioid that is 50 times more potent than heroin. The latest numbers from the Kern County Coroner's Office shows the county is on track for yet another record-setting number of deaths from the illicit drug. And as we've reported many times, fentanyl is turning up in virtually all street drugs and knockoff painkillers. Through Sunday, 180 Kern County residents have died this year from overdoses of fentanyl or related synthetic opioids. That puts us on track for 272 fentanyl deaths in 2022, a 17% increase from last year. And those grim numbers come as a bill providing Narcan on college campuses across California becomes law. Narcan is a nasal spray that can reverse the effects of an opioid overdose and potentially save lives. Senate Bill 365, the Campus Opioid Safety Act, was authored by Democratic Senator Melissa Hurtado. It requires California colleges to distribute Narcan and provide training in campus orientation materials. The governor says this will empower students to prevent any more needless deaths and ensure that fewer parents lose their children.
As the fentanyl epidemic continues here at home and across the country, Adventist Health is inviting the community to come together for International Overdose Awareness Day. Hospital staff is asking community members to join them in prayer this morning at 10 a.m. at Adventist Health Bakersfield on Chester Avenue. The Adventist Health team will be on hand to talk about a new life-saving program to help community members. Adventist Health says it will also be dedicating a remembrance tree thanks to a donation from Landscape Development. For more on the fentanyl crisis, including 17's Robert Price's Emmy Award-winning series, Fentanyl, the Counterfeit Killer, visit our website, kget.com/fentanyl.
And drinking and driving is an issue we closely follow here at 17 News. We call it Kern's Sober Reality. And a young man is dead. 2 women are recovering this morning after a suspected DUI crash on the Grapevine. It happened just after 7 o'clock Saturday night on the I-5 north of Lebec Road. The coroner has identified the man who died in the crash as 20-year-old Tony Ray Charles. Another woman suffered unknown injuries. Officers said the driver, 18-year-old Delilah Johnson, was also hurt in the crash. Johnson was taken to the hospital for treatment and then arrested for felony DUI. A vigil is being held tonight for Charles at 5:30 at Mill Creek Park. The family of Tony Charles has also set up a GoFundMe page to help offset funeral costs. If you would like to donate, we've posted a link to our website, kget.com, to that GoFundMe page.
The city of McFarland's looking for a new police chief after Kenny Williams announced he's stepping down later this year. Williams says he'll be stepping away from the police department to focus his attention and energy on his role as McFarland's city manager. Williams was originally hired as police chief in February of 2021 before taking on the role of city manager, and he's been in both positions for more than a year. City staff tells 17 News it is looking to hire a new police chief by October 1st, depending on the quality of applicants.
In news around the state this morning, a bill that could change how the fast food industry operates is one step closer to reaching Governor Gavin Newsom's desk. This is what it looked like outside the state capitol yesterday afternoon as fast food workers learned Assembly Bill 257 narrowly passed the state Senate 13-8. If signed into law, the legislation would establish a council to negotiate on behalf of fast food workers for things like wages and working conditions. Opponents, including California Restaurant Association and International Franchise Association, says it will only drive up prices and force small businesses out of California. Supporters argue it will give fast food workers a voice at the table.
It's going to allow the collective power of 500,000 fast food workers up and down the state of California to get a seat at the table with franchise owners and government to raise wages, make sure they have health and safety protections, and do education and training.
The bill still needs to pass the assembly before it can head to the governor's desk.
CHP's announced 5 arrests along with the recovery of $1 million in stolen cargo as the result of a 2-year investigation. During that time, officials say the suspects were responsible for over $9 million lost related to the theft of electronic cargo shipments. That cargo includes products from Google, Samsung, Microsoft, Sony, Apple, Dell, and HP. $250,000 in cash was also recovered. Statewide drought has been depleting Truxtun Lake of its water and wildlife, but the mess is getting cleaned up.
No more dead fish in the lake. We hired an environmentalist to be out there to take care of the wildlife and remediate any problems that might occur.
That plan does not include help for the abandoned turtles in the area, however, as Weir says they're being left alone since they are not native to the area. That is not the only issue, though. The smell in the lake is still there and has been aggravating patients at Comprehensive Blood and Cancer Center across the street for more than a week.
This horrid smell of rotting fish for our chemo patients, it's been awful experience for them.
Those who are actively undergoing treatment have side effects from the chemotherapy which are related to nausea and vomiting. This situation which has happened across the lake with many of the wildlife dying in it, with the stench and the smell, the wind blows it in our direction. We have very little control.
Dr. Patel says he's glad at least something's being done about the lake, but hopes more can be done about the ongoing stench. Truxtun Lake is empty, and it's not expected to be refilled until late spring.
News across the nation this morning, and a new legal twist in the classified documents seized from former President Trump's Mar-A-Lago property. The Justice Department says it has already filtered through all the materials, potentially undercutting the Trump's team's efforts to have a third party known as a special master independently sift through the evidence. NBC's Bree Jackson has the latest from Washington.
A show of hands and an investigation with constant legal maneuvering. The Justice Department revealing a limited set of what could be attorney-client privileged information was seized in the FBI search of former President Trump's Florida home.
They wanted to address both factual and legal issues.
DOJ says overall the FBI seized 11 sets of classified documents. That's in addition to another 184 classified documents Trump turned over earlier this year. Mr. Trump's lawyers still want a neutral party, what's known as a special master, to sift through the items.
We still need judicial intervention. We need a judge to monitor our access to these documents.
On Thursday, a federal judge will hear arguments over the request and has signaled she'd appoint an independent set of eyes to review the evidence gathered. Trump ally Lindsey Graham warning of major backlash.
There will be a lot of upset people if there is an effort to charge President Trump with the crime of mishandling classified information.
The Director of National Intelligence will conduct a damage assessment to determine if the former president's storage of materials put the country at risk. The White House is distancing itself, saying it did not request the review, nor has the president been briefed on the matter. DOJ is expected to file a more detailed response to Trump's request for a special master by the end of the day. On Thursday, President Biden will deliver a primetime speech to address how America's, quote, rights and freedoms are still under attack, an attempt to appeal to voters heading into midterm elections. In Washington, I'm Bree Jackson for NBC News.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.